Hello everybody and welcome to the Homepage Network. I'm John Vogt. Today I have the privilege of interviewing one of our local superstars right here in Tioga County. He resides in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. He is New York Times best-selling author Michael Capuzzo. And today we dive into Mike's most famous and successful book, Close to Shore. Who could forget, right? Close to Shore is the great adventure story of the summer of 1916 and the shark attacks that took place there. Those attacks inspired both the book and the movie Jaws. Close to Shore is still selling today with renewed interest as this summer marks the 50th anniversary of the release of the movie Jaws. I welcome you, Mike, and thank you for joining us on Homepage.
John, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I love this story, and you guys are the best storytellers. So,
well, I want to get to the real story. So let's talk about the real story. What really happened back in 1916? And did the movie get it right, or is that all embellished? What's the real deal?
Well, the real deal, John, is in 1916, a great white shark went crazy and attacked 5 people and killed 4 on a stretch of the Jersey Shore from just above Atlantic City to just below New York City. In the span of about 12 days, Woodrow Wilson was in the White House and wanted to eradicate all the sharks on the East Coast. And that's the role model for the movie and the book Jaws.
Now, what inspired you to write this book and tell this story?
Well, I was looking for a new book idea, and Teresa and I had met at the Philadelphia Inquirer. We were living in the Philadelphia area, less than an hour from the New Jersey shore, and I came across this incredible story buried in history books. No one had ever done a book about it, or really looked at it closely, of the greatest series of shark attacks in world history, rogue shark attacks, where one shark pursues a number of people, at least in the continental United States, in New Jersey, less than an hour from my house.
So they're pretty positive this was one shark that did all that?
Yeah, it's a mystery story even to this day. There's debate over whether it was one shark, but the foremost shark attack specialist biologist, George Burgess, in the country, in the world, has ruled that his best evidence suggests it was a single great white shark.
Now, most of the time, sharks are not attacking people, so what was the deal with this shark?
Right, absolutely. I mean, great whites, 59 times a year in the last year, there was a, quote, unprovoked shark attack on a human being. When you think of the billions who swim, it's pretty safe. This shark, according to the scientists, was lost, deranged. I mean, animals, we think of the animal world as they're kind of perfect, but a school of dolphins will turn the wrong way and end up in a frozen pond and not escape. And this shark wasn't able to catch the prey that it needed as it came north on a migration from Florida and found a human being and then allegedly developed a taste for it.
So that's part of it. Once they have a taste for a human being, then they'll probably do it again.
Right, although it's dumpster diving for a shark. I mean, they're after, 800-pound seals, and, it would be the equivalent of us, ordering up a plate of ribs and getting a bite of a squirrel's ankle or something. They're not happy about it, and it doesn't work for the shark or for us.
What happened to that shark? Did they find that shark? Or?
Well, when you look at what happened to that shark, just look at the movie Jaws. What's striking is that in 1970, or in the early 1970s, there was a monster fisherman, that's what he called himself, in Montauk, Long Island, and he went out and caught the biggest great white sharks ever caught on rod and reel, 3,500 pounds, 17 feet. And his daughter, who I interviewed, said, I remember when Dad came back, he got all this publicity. I remember when Dad came back one day and said there was this young fella from New York City, but he didn't want to catch fish, he just went writing down stories. It was Peter Benchley. He wrote the book Jaws, 1974. Spielberg turned it into the movie the next day, which made Spielberg world famous right from the beginning. And they used the same pattern of 4 attacks, an attack in shallow water, and then finally a fisherman trying to catch and kill the shark at the end, which happens in Jaws and happens in 1916.
Yeah, now did Benchley admit that he was inspired by that book?
He did at first when the book came out, and he thought it would be nothing, and it was world famous. Even Fidel Castro read it, and it was, 4.5 million copies sold. And then the first blockbuster movie in history, which was Jaws, the forerunner of all the movies we know today in the summer. And he said, well, this really happened before. I've done my research, 1916 New Jersey. And in the movie, you see Richard Dreyfuss try to convince the mayor to close the beaches. And he says, it happened before, 1916 New Jersey. But then the conservation movement run by nonprofits, I mean, doing a lot of good work, I think got on him and said, you know, that doesn't help the image of sharks. So he started to cover that up and say, well, you know, I didn't really use that, but he did. I interviewed him.
Did you?
Yeah, when I was with the Philadelphia Inquirer.
The movie itself has changed the world somewhat. How has it?
Jaws, it's really phenomenal. Well, first, like I mentioned, if you saw, you know, Titanic or any big summer movie, that came from the new business model established by Jaws. Number two, it made us much more aware of the ocean. And in our generation, my generation and yours, that John Williams script, da-dum, da-dum. I mean, I was a good swimmer. I didn't swim in the ocean for a long time, and a lot of us felt that way. It's still considered one of the great horror movies of all time, although I don't know if the young generation thinks it's so horrible. But also, a whole generation of shark scientists, biologists, were shaped by Jaws. In other words, George Burgess and Greg Skomal, who's on Shark Week all the time out of Massachusetts, they looked at Jaws and they decided to become shark biologists.
So it furthered our study of sharks.
Exactly, and they also decided to become conservationists and really push for saving sharks.
Wow.
In 1916, a 24-year-old was the first shark attack victim in U.S. history, and he's attacked and killed just before he's about to get married. In 2018, a young man in Wellfleet on Cape Cod, just about to get married, goes swimming and is practically bit in half by a 15-foot great white shark. And so you see the movie Jaws, and Jaws happens is there in Cape Cod every day of the year now because the sharks have come back. The effort of all this conservation, partly because of the movie Jaws, has brought the movie Jaws to real life in Cape Cod.
What's your takeaway? Yeah, I'm sure this has been an adventure for you, and then you have the success of the book, #1 bestseller. What have you learned through this process? You must have been enriched by the whole experience.
Yeah, I realized I envy scientists. I'm a science writer because they get to work on something that's a great mystery like this without, you know, being involved in talk radio or whatever in the news. And I learned that the conflict which we have in our world today between big data and propaganda media that tries to tell us one thing. Like I went on NPR once. I was on NPR a dozen times for this book, and they did a great job. But I was on once with Juan Williams, and he what would you call it, shanghaied me. He had a shark scientist expert on with me live and didn't tell me. This was Talk of the Nation, NPR, national show, and said, well, what do you think of this story that Mr. Capuzzo is telling? And he said, I think it's made up. I think it can't be true. Because he's protecting the idea that, you know, sharks have been victimized, therefore we can't think of them as the apex predators that they are. And I just said, well, you know, I've interviewed the families who lost. And I said, and in the name of the deaths in their family, I have to say you're wrong. But it's sort of a conflict between outstanding, brilliant, wonderful things. I mean, great white shark is awesome, like thunder and lightning are awesome. And I think we all respect it, you know.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming in and sharing with our homepage audience today. How can our audience pick up a copy of the book?
Well, Close to Shore is on Amazon and everywhere books are sold, and it got, you know, the critics said it was scarier than the book Jaws and a classic of adventure, so I was thrilled to write it. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for coming in.
Sure, it's great. Thank you.
For all your N's, C and N.